somebody had asked me to explain Sid's experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what happened. And that's why I posted that question
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, it's a beautiful story. I don't know, does Jesse, do you know that story about Sid Banks and what happened to him and how all this started or anything?
No, I started watching the some of the videos the other day, but I think I watched it late and I fell asleep.
Okay, that's good.
But I was listening to it like at night. So I missed part of it. No, I have to get more into it. I
Yeah.
read one of the books, which was really good, but I want to get more into like the other stuff.
Jesse read Second Chance.
Yeah, I liked it.
And
Oh,
she got stuff. The first reading, she got
Really?
stuff in there. I don't
Well,
know about you, Tom, but my first reading, it was like, oh, that's an interesting story. But it wasn't registering. That was back at, 30 years ago. It wasn't registering the pearls that were in there. Jesse caught it.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like for you, Jesse?
There were like, so I think based on because where I am and the things that I'm dealing with, there was like a lot of things that stood out, like a lot of things that the way the thinking is, and I'm like, that's me. That's the way I can't pinpoint certain things, but I ended up downloading it so I can highlight it on my Kindle, because that way I can have it on my phone and I can have it on my Kindle. And I was like, oh my gosh, just like it just spoke to me. So I think I'm gonna read the other one. So I started watching the videos the other day because we were talking about the separate realities. That was what Lori and I were talking about. So I'm like, the more knowledge I have, then the more I get into it, the more like that book I connected to. There was a lot of things that they talked about that I felt I connected to.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually just now listening to Second Chance for the first time.
So
I
have
haven't
you read the book?
read it. I have it on audio.
So this is the first time you were
Yeah.
listening, reading,
First
listening.
time listening. Yeah.
First pass through. Oh, cool.
First pass through. So yeah, I'm liking it so far.
Yeah.
It's definitely a quick read because I think I picked it up and I read most of it one day and then finished it like the next day.
Yeah.
Like I just was like, couldn't put it down. So I just kept reading it. And I have Audible, so I like to listen to it. But if I really want to read something and get something out of it, I like to either have it in paper or on some type of device where I can highlight certain pieces of it.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
And wait until you read it a second time. It becomes a whole new book.
So
Okay.
I've heard. Yeah.
Because you catch things you didn't catch the first read through.
What's the
Subtle.
second one? The Gardener. What was the second one?
Well,
that you had recommended?
The sequel to Second Chance is In Search of the Pearl.
Oh.
Search of the Pearl is like the sequel. So it's a follow-up, like he returns to Maui. There's even more in that. As far as I could see, there was more in that. And then The Enlightened Gardener, people really love that book.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read that or listened to that, Tom?
I've listened to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much wisdom.
And I'm really kind of impressed by the way he puts his stories together, because he didn't have any training, as far as I know, in that, and he really puts a story together.
It helped. And in fact, his son Dave helped him edit Second Chance. I just found out recently from Dave. And so Dave is going to come on as soon as we can have him come and talk about that. Yeah, be wonderful.
Is it like a different version of the same book, or is it the same book? The one you're saying?
Second Chance, there was only one Second Chance, one of a kind. We all, every time the rest of us reads it, we think that we're reading a new edition, but there were no other editions. It was just our own level of consciousness shifting. And so The Enlightened Gardener is really very different. It's also a story, but it's a story that takes place, I think it's in London. There's a psychology conference, and the Sid character is the gardener. And this group of psychologists, I think there's like 5 of them, they pass the gardener on their way into the conference. And it's all about their chats with the gardener, how much they're learning from him, more than they're learning in the psychology conference.
Yeah.
And here's, and that was Sid, was like an ordinary person, like a gardener. He was a welder, totally ordinary person that had the most extraordinary experience happen to him. And that's the experience that we were talking about. Somebody had asked me to tell them about it. And I felt like it's going to lose a lot if I just tell you the experience. It's something you want to hear from the person who had the experience. But the person I told that to did not like my answer. They had a lot of thoughts about what that answer meant, that it had something to do with sales.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, we make up all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and of course it looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
Whatever we're thinking, we're not realizing we're making it up with our ability to make stuff up.
Yeah.
It looks real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's in the do I have it right? No, his joke about worry is in the last one. I think his story of the experience is in Long Beach. It's in the Long Beach tapes.
Yeah.
And it says the experience. Yeah. So you got to listen to that.
Yeah.
It's really mind-blowing.
It's wonderful.
The first time I heard it, Tom, I thought he's making it up.
Oh,
I mean, this was back in 1985, even though I was in the land of, I was in San Francisco, but still it sounded like there's people don't have experiences like this. These things don't happen, but they do happen, a few times in right. I think Eckhart Tolle, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but I think he had a similar experience happen to him that revealed so much about life, like in an instant.
Laurie, do you recall ever hearing it directly from Sid?
Yeah, that was when I thought, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. I thought he was embellishing.
Yeah.
But then, when you get to see more in your own life, you realize, no, that's what happened. It's so far from anything that I could ever imagine happening to me.
You never know.
You never know, right?
And the other thing is, I do think we maybe experience later versions of that all the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we just
right.
And
we pass it by.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Like we're not really aware of how important it is. Like we'll have little insights about life.
Yeah.
And we might not really catch the value and the importance of it because we're speeded up. We're like going on to the next thing when this really incredible thing just unfolded. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And just that we get small versions of the big thing, even, maybe they don't have as big an impact, but we have insights all the time.
Right. Yeah.
All the time we're having insights.
Right.
So I was curious, Jesse, where do you live? What part of the country?
I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, all these people in Connecticut.
Well, I hope
Connecticut.
that I can bring people from my hometown.
That's great.
Tom, I might have mentioned, I'm not sure, Tom's in Oregon.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so it's interesting, Laurie, because I do find myself when I started feeling different in my life, when I started really feeling different and
Different as in,
feeling good, feeling happy, feeling like I was seeing things, and I would share with people, like, like friends who I hadn't seen since my own experience happened, that I do find myself referring back to Sid. Or if people say, well, what are you involved in? What is this all about? I often do go back and say, well, it started with this guy, Sid. He was doing this thing, and this is what happened. And and I think it's people, I don't know, people may respond to that, in a way. It gives it a certain something. Um,
I
you know,
mean, it's true. You could really say the simple version of it,
yeah,
in my mind, which is Sid was talking to another man. They were at an encounter group that was insane. And so they were chatting, and Sid was saying how insecure he was. And the man said to him, "Oh, Sid, you're not insecure. There's no such thing as insecurity. It's just you just think you're insecure." And the man kept talking as though, that's no big deal that he just said that. But Sid like said, "Whoa, wait a minute. Do you realize what you just said?" That had enormous impact on Sid. That there's no such thing. I mean, you can't pick up this isn't insecurity, this isn't insecurity. It's in our head, it's in our own thinking. And that's when Sid realized that everything is coming from our own thinking. Which sounds so, yeah, da, 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 da. So yeah, I get that. But we don't get that until we get it deeper and deeper and deeper and we see it. Oh my gosh, everything is really our perspective, our interpretation of what's out there. That keeps getting revealed to me 30 years later. There's stuff, I'll say, then I realize, wait a minute, this is me. It's not that or him or her. It's, yeah.
I have a question. So then how does it change? Like, okay, so I'm thinking, because I'm like, as I'm like, my mindset is changing, and as I'm getting older and kind of seeing things, so then what changes? So see, I'm new to this whole process. So then what changes so that you're like, okay, this is not, it's all me. What has to change? Your mindset?
Well, if you realize, or if anybody realizes that it's coming from them in the moment, because we forget and then we remember, let's say in the moment you realize, oh, this is coming from me. It's really hard to blame the other person. It's impossible. How do you blame the other person when you realize it's coming from you? Right? And, it just seems ridiculous to me if I'm entering an argument and all of a sudden it hits me, wait a minute, this is my perspective. And it drops me into a quieter place where I can listen to what the other person has to say and not have to defend myself. I mean, defending myself looks really ridiculous. In the moments that I realize this whole thing, this discussion is going on in here. Even though, yeah, I'm speaking and the other person's speaking, the discussion itself is what's going on inside my own head. Is that how you see it, Tom?
yeah, very much, very much. And so what I notice sometimes is, like sometimes you have something that's like really bothering you. Like let's say it's the morning and something's really some situation in your life you feel is really bothering you. And then later in the day, it's not bothering you, but it's still kind of out there. that to me is something to really be curious. Like, how can the situation be bothering me one moment, and then later it's not bothering me, but it hasn't changed? And that's when, like, it sort of almost like proves that something is going on inside me that is causing me something is going on inside me to cause me to be unhappy or upset about something, because the thing hasn't changed, but inside me it's changed. And it also opens up the possibility for me that, wow, this doesn't have to, like, things that have bothered me all my life, wow, this doesn't have to bother me. You know, that's possible, that those things don't have to, like, and it just kind of, and like Laurie says, like, there, even after you see that, you can still get lost in that, but it kind of breaks it up a little bit, so it's not so heavy, not so solid, and you kind of just catch on to it more. And so I think that's the thing. And the nice thing about it is, like, you don't have to do anything. You just see it. It's like, oh, okay, I see things differently. And that's what changes, to me at least.
Yeah, it's a
Does that make any sense?
description.
Yeah.
Love that description. Yeah.
I was
Does that
gonna say
make
it makes
sense,
sense.
Jesse?
I need to get that. Yeah, it does. I want to be like fully there,
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're not
but
totally
that
there
makes so
either.
much sense. Yeah.
You know, the beauty of this is you'll see that you just keep seeing more and more and more. It's like incrementally in little snippets here and there where you just keep seeing more and more. Like you've been around this for 2 years, I think, right, Tom?
Yeah. About 2
Yeah,
years.
2. I've been around it for 30 years. And I'm still seeing things that I hadn't seen just 6 months ago. You know, it really helps being in this with you guys, because I see more just from the questions that people ask. That I find that so cool to have people like, you know, somebody who's been here 2 years. Alan was on, no, Richard was on yesterday, and he knew Sid before I did. And his wife was Sid's secretary for a while.
Oh.
Marika, yeah. And Richard worked with Sid, creating his book covers. Yeah. So I love this mystery school that, you know, we get people from all points of reference, I guess, or all levels of learning. Yeah. So you wanted to explore, Tom, and then, you know, Jesse, what in particular do you want to explore? Tom, you were talking about how we show up in the world. I think that sounds really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that is so great is knowing that whatever our gifts are, whatever we kind of understand about life, that we just naturally, that's who we are when we go out into the world. And it's nice to know that. I think one of the blessings of being in this conversation over the past couple of years is the feeling that, wow, this has really helped me. And I've met so many wonderful people. And to know that it's very natural to want everyone. Because, you know, a lot of the things that, like, no one ever told us this.
I know this book actually.
Yeah.
It's funny. Jack Pransky wrote a book called Somebody Should Have Told Us.
Yeah.
One of his clients said, "Why didn't anybody ever tell us this?"
Because they didn't know.
That's the name of my book.
And so it's very natural to want other people, but it's not like, even though I'm trained to coach, it's not like I'm out there even coaching people, but it affects you. It affects the way you deal with your family. It affects the way you deal with strangers. And I feel like, you know, we are spreading something really nice and good to the world just by being ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That has hit me more in this year, hearing those recordings that I point people to on sidbanks.com, where he really makes a point about that. And he says, be selfish, get this for yourself. Don't worry about if you're a teacher. Jesse's a teacher. And he says this, if you're a teacher, don't worry about having your students understand. That was genius for him to say that. Genius, because people pick up, or they want to know what you know, or they want to know what you've learned. And it'll land so differently if they ask, rather than you telling, hey, I just learned this and I want you to know it. They're going to say, get out of town. Don't
Yeah.
bother me.
Yeah.
Right? What did Sid? I mean, that was just so that he saw that. How did he see that? How did he know that? Yeah, it's just mind boggling. And the way he also says, don't listen to my words, that's also ingenious, because you're going to have a different interpretation for the same word. Yeah, like I was working with a couple the other day, and he misunderstood when she said, I'm going to give it to her. She meant she was going to give her, I don't remember, a book, a note, something like that. And he went like, you're going to give it to her? Like, you're going to really give it to her? Like it's a saying for being mad at somebody and you're going to give them grief. This is so funny how we hear words so differently, and that's separate realities. So, yeah, what you said, Tom, that we show up in the world according to our level of understanding
Right.
of how this inside out nature of life is, how we operate, how we work, however you want to say that, so before I understood this, to whatever degree I understand it now, I would have the tendency to take things personally. What's the word I'm looking for? That I would take things personally and have to defend myself. That looks so weird to me now. That's how behavior changes as a result of understanding changing. And understanding what? Understanding the inside out nature of life. To me, that really explains that life is coming through us, it's not coming at us. What do you guys, what do you two think about how we show up in the world according to how we see things?
It's just interesting. Like I'm listening to you, and then I'm like, what plays in my mind? Like when I teach, because I've been teaching, I think the more you teach, the more you kind of learn how to handle and deal with students. So I work in the north end of Hartford. So we have like difficult kids. And I had a
Really,
student who
north
I
end of
had last
Hartford
year.
is really tough.
Yeah. So I have a student, like as soon as you said that, it made me think of a student who is very difficult. She's very, like, as soon as you say something, she's going to attack. And so I found a way this year. This is the second year I've had her. I don't know if it's because we have less students in the building or whatever, but my interactions with her are very different. My approach, because she assumes that anybody that comes at her, like what you just said, is there to attack her. So I've learned to be like, my approach has to be different. And it's like that with teaching. Like you learn, like your first year, you're just chaos, but then you kind of learn how to manage everything else. Nobody teaches you that in school when you go to school for teaching.
Right. That's wisdom.
Yeah. and
We are
experience.
all plugged into that wisdom,
Mhm.
but not everybody recognizes it.
Mm-mm.
But
But it
you
also comes
did.
with time. Well, it comes with time. It comes with time and experience and dealing with. So you learn to kind of change your mindset, and when you deal with certain situations,
I'll bet you
it
there are
took.
teachers who have been teaching as long as you. How long have you been teaching?
This is so my son is 16, so 14 years.
Wow.
So 14 years.
You're a veteran.
Yeah. So it's like recently, I think being at the school and with the pandemic, and sometimes I have to get like, and I grew up in Hartford. And so sometimes I will have to say to the students, tell me so that I can understand, because although we both grew up in the same place, we're not living the same experience.
That's
I mean,
separate
it's
realities.
so different. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
And Jesse, do you have a specialty in your teaching, or what kind of?
So I taught elementary for 9 years, and now I'm doing literacy at a high school.
Oh, okay.
So I have, like, the nice part about my job is I don't have a curriculum, so I get to like create my own lessons. And so the big
Wow.
push now in teaching is being culturally responsive. So like when I listen to you guys, like, people assume culturally responsive is a curriculum. It's not a curriculum. It's just changing the way that you do things, which is exactly what we're talking about. It's like make different levels of understanding and then just changing the way that you do things. So even though it's like new to me, it's like one of the things we just had to do a reflection the other day. And I said, I just need to better my practice. Like, I've learned with teaching, my very first year that I taught, somebody said, there was a veteran teacher. She probably already retired. She said, the one thing about teaching, it's never the same day twice. So today could be a bad day and tomorrow's completely different.
Yeah.
And so, good or bad, you'll never have the same day twice. And so I know, like, I used to stress a lot, and I would come home and I would be angry or whatever, stress. And I've like had to learn how to disconnect myself. Like, when I'm home, because it was affecting my home life, because I was bringing that stress home here. And I try not to do that. I try to be very conscious about not doing that anymore.
Nice. Nice.
Being more in the moment.
Yeah, being more in the moment. Like, work is work. I enjoy it, do the best I can there. And then when I get home, I have to be here and I have to be present in my home. That's why I walk. I started walking at lunch. So I walk around the building now twice. So I do a mile at lunch, because that's what helps me decompress, because as teachers with the pandemic, we're in front of a computer all day. So I had to say, I can't sit here because I'm sitting here eating lunch and I'm not taking a break. So now I just walk and then I just eat lunch when I eat lunch. I think it helps me, allow me to take that. Then I have an hour left and I can survive that last hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to walk. I walk a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I will, after we're done, I'm probably going to be out walking. It's so wonderful to be able to do that.
I love it too.
I like to exercise. So when I get out of here, I think I did a walk after school. We'll take the dog for a walk.
Mm.
I think exercising, that's probably the one thing that's, like, for me, very therapeutic. Exercising is the one thing that I think I have had constant since, like, for 20 years, since I've had my daughter's 22. So I started exercising consistently when I had her. It's probably the one thing that helps me the most,
Yeah.
whether it's walking, whatever it is that I do. But
Yeah.
walking was always my favorite. That's where I started.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. There was a time in my life where I thought, oh, I should start running. And I tried to run a little bit, but then after just like a few blocks, because I'd be out in the neighborhood, after a few blocks, I'd just be looking at everything. And then all of a sudden I'd find I'm slowing down and then I'm just walking. So
Yeah.
Too hard to see things when you're going too fast. Everything
yeah.
blur.
Do you,
Right.
do you like to walk, Lori?
I
Do you
love it.
walk?
Yeah. Absolutely love it. We have a wonderful park, not far, it's like a 10-minute drive for me. I don't know if you're familiar with the West Hartford Reservoir across from Yukon Medical Center
Okay.
on
I know where it
Farmington
is, but I've
Avenue.
never been in that area. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you gotta come. It's like walking through a diorama. There's a
Nice.
road, so it's a tarred road, but it's through the woods,
Wow.
totally through the woods. And because it's tarred, you get such scenery, not just for the woods, but little kids.
Oh,
And that's my love place. That's where I go when I
Oh,
really want to feel a lot of love. Dogs hopping around and, you know, um, wanting to run over to get pet. But they're all on leashes. That's part of the policy there. And fathers teaching their kids how to ride tricycles.
mm,
The scenes of families. I don't know. It's like nobody's ever in an argument there. I don't think it's possible to argue in this park.
wow.
great. And did you say there's a reservoir?
And it's around a reservoir. So you see
So
water.
yeah, I mean, so if you combine a good walk with a water feature, like I don't have like a really close place to walk near water. We don't have very many of those here in Portland for some reason, you know. But that's to me, that's the ultimate.
Hmm.
Aside from listening to Sid, of course.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
ultimate answer. That was one of his videos.
Oh,
I
wait.
couldn't access the
So,
videos.
Oh, you couldn't?
I think no, wait, that's not true. Then let me backtrack. I was able to access the videos on the website, but not the reading. Something, I don't know if you have to purchase the books or the reading. Maybe I have to do it again. But I
yeah,
was
Yeah.
you
able to
have to
watch
buy
the
the
videos.
books. You mean like Second Chance and The Enlightened
But
Gardener? Is that what you mean?
that I bought, yeah, that I don't mind getting and putting it on the Kindle. But it was like when I got to the website, I don't know if it was I wanted to listen to it or something, but I ended up putting the video last night. They're short, right? Because it's a
They're
snippet of.
short. They really are.
But there are longer ones though, and sometimes the way the website is organized is not always obvious, but there are um, several like long, like 40-minute videos on that website.
Okay.
And one of them is tricky because you have to use this sort of thing in the middle of the page to scroll up and down, and they're hidden.
Mm,
They're hidden.
They telescope. Like
Yeah,
when
something
you
like that.
go into, so
Scroll.
maybe there's 4 parts. There's 4 parts, and each part is 10 minutes long.
Something like that, yeah. But there are some very long ones on there, so those are worth watching, and so yeah.
But there's also listen. So there's watch, listen, read.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
There's 3 bubbles.
mm-hmm. I did it on my phone, so does it look? Maybe it just does it look different on a
It might.
computer? Because I did. That's what it is. Because I did it on my phone. Because at home, like if I'm in my bed, I'd rather I put headphones in and then I'm just it's easier for me to just focus.
Yeah.
Mhm. And there are a few, actually there used to be, when I first got into this 2 years ago, a lot of those videos that are on his site were on YouTube. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it was somebody else um, somehow having them and uploading them to YouTube. But a lot of those have disappeared because, I'm assuming whoever is in charge of the videos, maybe saw those and took them down. But there are some short ones on YouTube if you Google Sid Banks, and then there are a couple of old audios of Sid on YouTube. You just have to kind of find them. Um, so
There's 2 new ones coming out.
yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
Yeah. 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 I thought we'd have a watch party.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
yeah,
fun?
that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
I've never organized something like that, but
You could,
can't be that difficult, right?
yeah.
You're
I think it's
muted.
just a button on Facebook. Then you just say, well, it's very easy to do it.
Yeah.
you watch it and then you say, and then you just invite, I think it just shares it out and whoever wants to join you, joins you.
Oh, good. So you could even do it, you don't have to plan ahead even, you just, I'll contact you to show me how to do
Yeah,
it.
because I think we did, because I'm like part of the teachers union and we had like some type of webinar or something. And then if you're on Facebook, you could just hit watch party and then you just shares it out and it'll just say, Jessie Rosario is watching this video, join her. And then people
Oh,
could just
cool.
join you. Yeah,
Nice.
it's
But do
very
you see
simple.
the other people while you're watching?
You know what? I can't even, because I didn't need nobody joined because I was like, this is, I was able to like figure it out, but then I took it off because I didn't know what it was. So I didn't see, like, I didn't go all the way through to notice if other people were watching, but it's a very easy like feature to do right on the social media. So it's easy to do it.
Cool. That'll be fun. Yeah. So what other questions? I don't know, did we cover your question about how we show up in the world,
Sure.
given
Yeah. I'll let Jessie ask a question if she has something.
Jesse's turn?
She's
I don't
doing
have a good question. I'm I'm sitting here and I'm thinking if I had a notebook, I'd write stuff down because then I'd shut my computer. I like to write quotes. I'm a big quote person.
Yeah.
So like even when I read, so like there were like a certain things that you guys said, and I was like, wow, if I had my book, I would have written it down. So like the thing, how we show up in the world, that's huge. Like the way, I mean, not that I'm that much older, but like from I was telling Lori, from 7 years to now, I've definitely changed my thinking than what I was. I'm the youngest of 8. So I always felt like I fell into the shadows. And I've had to kind of learn who I was. So it's like I became that, then I became a mom, then I was a mom, then I was the kids, you know how if you go somewhere and it's like, oh, Edric's mom. And then it was like never who I was. So now I'm like, now I'm just a dog mom.
Yeah.
So how we show up in the world, like that's to me, it's like I just do like when I get off the phone, I'll write it down.
Yeah. Great.
I love it. Love it.
Well, I record these, Jesse, so
Yeah.
catch it in the recording.
Well, did anything interesting come up from yesterday that you want to share from the other people? Because I feel like we're all in this together, but we don't see each other all the time.
Yeah.
Depending on which day. Was there anything that strikes you from yesterday that you can share?
You mean from our gathering yesterday?
Yeah,
the Wednesday
anything.
gathering? Yeah, Richard Mayer was talking about that quote of Sid's. In fact, it's a quote of Sid's about, let's see if I can capture it, about, living the dream, right? He said that's in the Long Beach lecture after Sid's joke about worry. Sid was also very funny. It's, we laughed a lot during the talks. So something about living the dream, and then you wake up and life is a dream, and you wake up and you realize you've been living a dream. There's so many ways to think about that. I mean, like my brain starts to get confused, which Sid would say that's a good thing because you want to bypass the brain. You don't want to figure it out. But the thing that came to me was how I go in and out in my life. I go in and out of feeling like, my God, I can't believe I get to live this dream. And then, not that I have a dream life, as most people would think of a dream life, which is, retired in a mansion overlooking the ocean. That's not a dream, because if the couple inside that mansion is throwing dishes at each other and hitting each other over the head with pots and pans. No dream there. But the dream is like, you know how you wake up and, well, for instance, like I'm walking in this park and I'm in my head and I'm thinking about something. And then all of a sudden it's like I wake up and I realize, wow, look where I am. This
Yeah.
is a dream.
Yeah.
I'm living, I'm a living matrix.
Nice.
And it's
I'm
holy cow. You
Mhm.
know, it doesn't matter if you're penniless or a billionaire. What matters is what's going on in here. I remember being on a vacation years ago when I was married. My husband and I wanted an inexpensive vacation. So we went to Jamaica after the island was torn apart by a tornado. Or is it a hurricane? It was a hurricane. And we got great deals. But the place was
Mhm.
really torn apart. So we go on a glass bottom boat excursion. This glass bottom boat was manned by one person, and the boat was large enough for two people besides that one person. It was like a little canoe, and the bottom was plexiglass that was all scratched. You couldn't even see, it just looked like mud below you. But the guy in the boat was amazing. Amazing. He had a smile, black skin, and a smile from ear to ear, the whitest teeth imaginable. And Joe, I remember his name. That'll tell you something. This dates back many years. Joe would say to us, you know, like, where do you live, Joe? What do you do when you can't see anything that's not a glass bottom boat? The show was Joe. So, oh, I lived in a fishing village. It's no longer there. After the hurricane, it's no longer there, but we all survived. I mean, it was such a mind blower. Such a mind blower, you know, really living so close to the earth and just as happy as can be and grateful. He was so grateful that his whole family, and it was a big family, they all survived.
Mhm.
Nothing else mattered. So they'll rebuild the fishing village, you know.
Yeah.
Just like we Westerners would take it, right?
Right.
So I got off on a tangent on that one, but I don't even remember what led me into that. But it was fun telling it anyway. Yeah, but living the dream, that's what led me into that. What's your
Yeah.
experience with that, you guys? When you
I
like
think
wake
living the
up,
dream, it depends on how you grow up.
it
So like
depends on
for
what,
us,
Jesse?
yeah, like your upbringing, how you grew up and what the like the your like what's valued. So I know like with us, it's just the little things. Like I value the little things that we have.
Mhm.
And so I think I worked in Vernon for many years. And when I got to Hartford, I felt because I grew up in Hartford, but when I got there, I felt like that's where I belonged. Like I can connect with a lot of the kids because I know what it's like not to have a lot. And so when I get things, even my friend laughs at me who lives out here. I live in Talent, Connecticut, the suburbs. I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut. And she'll laugh at me because we'll do things and I'll experience things that I never experienced living in the city. And she thinks it's the funniest thing that I am in awe that I got on a boat because I've never been on a boat. And she laughs. And I said, but you don't understand. I've never done this before. This is like a new experience. And so I think it just depends. It depends on your mindset. Living the dream could be like for us, we're living the dream, even though, we have a decent sized house or whatever. It's not the best, it's not like a mansion, but it's a big deal for us
You
coming
appreciate
from
it.
where we started. Yes.
Yeah.
Coming from where we
Appreciation
started.
is so that having appreciation is so good for us. It's such a great feeling. Gratitude and appreciation.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so great. And you weren't afraid or you didn't hold back from just saying, this is wonderful for me. I've never
No,
been on a boat before.
no, she laughs. My friend laughs at me all the time. And I say, no, but you know, because her upbringing is very different than my upbringing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just like appreciate a lot of the things that I have. That's probably the biggest thing that we have. So when we get something, we value it.
Do you know what? You just reminded me of a story that was told years ago by another three principles practitioner who had a client who did not know that she grew up poor until she was 30.
Oh,
At 30, she found out that she grew up with two sisters, I think it was, and a single mom. And in the wintertime, the three of them, it would be four, right? The four of them would get together, huddled in front of the fireplace in their sleeping bags. She thought it was what they do because they're close. They're a close family and they love each other and they have this real fun in sleeping bags. At age 30, she found out her mother couldn't afford to heat the apartment they were in.
yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, I just thought, oh my gosh, that is just so beautiful. She grew up thinking we're close. We're not poor. That never even entered her mind as a possibility.
Mm, yeah, yeah, it's very different. I think when you like where we are now, my husband and I, because we kind of both grew up the same way. I think I would rather have, and my kids live a different experience. So they, like you said, separate realities because they didn't have to fight for what they have. So when we do things, we like appreciate the little things from where we started to where we are now.
Right. Yeah. That's worth so much. Makes it worth so much more. What else you want to talk about? We're just about out of time. Holy
Mm,
cow.
Mm.
These
Well,
hours go so
well,
fast.
I think gratitude and appreciation are always such a good thing, and um, Sid talked about that a lot too, and I feel very grateful too. Like I have food, I have shelter, I have heat, I have someplace that I can walk every day. I have friendly people around. You know, I don't have a car. I get around by bus and walking, and I have everything. I'm living in heaven, and I so appreciate that. And then on top of that, I get to be with and I'm in a couple other groups too.
mhm.
I get to be with all these wonderful people. You know,
Right.
so I really appreciate that.
What other groups are you in?
Well, I'm in the I was in a training program with Rohini Ross and Angus Ross. I don't know if you know them.
Oh, yeah,
And
sure.
so we have stayed. We were in a training program, but we've stayed together as a group. And some people refer
Mhm.
to the group as family because that's the feel to it. It's
Oh,
really strong, like connection. So we have stayed together. We have our own WhatsApp group, our own
Mhm.
Facebook group, and I talk to people. Like today, in the morning. I talked to one of my friends from England, and then just before this, I was talking with three more friends from England and one from Norway in a little group. And there's just so much love and support, you know.
yeah.
And then tonight I'm going to talk to I think you know Rita.
Rita Shuford?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
She's in Hawaii and we're friends. I'm going to talk to her tonight. So, you know, it's just awesome. To,
Oh, tell her
to
hello from me.
I
Yeah.
will, I will.
We were
So
in
that,
Coral Gables together.
oh, you were?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when Rita wrote her PhD dissertation when we were
Okay.
in Coral Gables,
So,
1985.
yep. So it's great. I just, I just love it.
Yeah, how lucky, right?
Mhm.
That is, it's good to have those connections,
Yep.
And
especially
you'll
in this
see,
time of the
Jesse,
pandemic.
sometimes
Yeah.
people come on the 5 o'clock, not so much, but that's why I have an earlier time on Wednesday, because somebody comes on from Germany. Somebody was a few people from the UK, and somebody else from Spain came on once. Yeah, it's a little hard for the timing but it's so cool to have this connection of everybody interested in seeing more of what Sid realized in a really huge way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's people all over the world.
Yeah. It's that aspect of maybe it doesn't get talked about as much, but I feel like the communal aspect of us, like imagine us all just reading and listening on our own would be very different from just having it's community. Community is really that's part of life. And to have a community where people are sort of awakening to something, everyone's awakening to something. Like that is awesome. Right?
And how about getting together in an all-inclusive destination on the Caribbean in
Okay.
November?
Okay. Are you going to organize that?
It's in the works.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, this person who read The Secret of Love did I tell you the story how that happened? I mean, this is how connections happen, like on their own. So he reads the Secret of Love, and he contacts his friend who had been bringing groups to this all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic, and said, wouldn't it be cool to have the authors of this book do a couples retreat? So that person, whose name is Mike Joy, his real last name is Joy, Mike Joy, brings people to the Caribbean. You can't make this stuff up, right? So yeah, and Chris doesn't want to do a retreat in the Dominican Republic. She wants to do one in Hawaii, where she lives.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
that's fine too. But we realize that the Dominican thing, I mean, the price is so amazing. It's like you almost can't afford to stay home. Because when you get a group together, it lowers the price for everybody. So Mike Joy is working that out. And yeah, sometime in November, I think we'll all be able to travel.
Yeah, hopefully.
He was actually there last week. They did have, there were very few people there, but they did have to wear masks on the beach. But he said hardly anybody was on the beach. So, I don't know how much they actually did wear their mask. I don't know. But yeah, by November, I think that we'll be in good shape. I'm hoping.
Mm.
All right, I got to sign off. I have somebody in my waiting room.
All right.
All right. Nice to
All
meet you,
right.
Tom.
Great
Nice
seeing you.
to
I'm
meet you,
so glad you
Jesse.
joined us,
So nice to meet
Jesse.
you.
Have a
Yeah.
good night, you guys.
Yeah,
Come
thanks,
next
Laurie.
Thursday.
See you next time.
Next Thursday. That was great. Bye, Tom.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Whoops.